The war room was silent when Captain Una Park walked in. 50 officers stood around a massive holographic display showing enemy territory. Red zones covered most of the map. Humanity was losing this war, and everyone in that room knew it. Admiral Do-Won Lee stood at the center, his face tired and gray. He had led the United Terran Defense Force for 15 years. He had watched Earth burn. He had signed death orders for thousands of soldiers. Today, he would sign one more. "Captain Park," he said, his voice heavy. "You understand what we are asking?" Una stood straight, her dark eyes fixed on the red zones. "Yes, Admiral. Solo reconnaissance into the Kale system. Find out what the Verith are building. Send the data home." "The survival rate is 3%, another officer said. "Maybe less." Una almost smiled. "I have beaten worse odds." This was true. In 12 years of service, Una had completed 47 impossible missions. She had pulled soldiers from burning ships. She had flown through asteroid fields while enemy fighters chased her. She had once landed a destroyed shuttle using nothing but manual controls and stubbornness. But this mission was different. The Kale system was deep inside Verith space. No human had ever gone that far and returned. The Verith Dominion had ruled 1,000 star systems for 10,000 years. They saw humans as insects, pests to be crushed. And for 20 years, they had been crushing humanity slowly. Una had personal reasons to hate them. When she was 12 years old, Verith ships had bombed the coastal cities of Earth. Her parents died in the fires. Her little brother Junho survived but was changed forever. He joined the military at 15, lying about his age. He died at 16, shot down over Mars. She had nothing left except the war. "When do I leave?" she asked. Admiral Lee looked at her for a long moment. He had known her since she was a young pilot, angry and reckless. He had watched her become something else, something harder, something that scared him a little. "Tomorrow, 0600 hours," he said. "Your ship is the Silent Flame, stealth configuration. Enough fuel for a one-way trip, and maybe enough to get back." "Maybe," Una repeated. "Maybe," the Admiral confirmed. That night, Una sat alone in her quarters. She held a small data chip in her hands. On it were video messages she had recorded over the years. Messages to Junho, even though he was dead. She talked to him about her missions, her fears, her small victories. It was foolish, she knew. He would never hear them. But it made her feel less alone. She recorded one final message. "Hey, little brother," she said softly. "I am going somewhere far tomorrow. I do not think I will come back. But that is okay. I will finally get to see you again. Mom and Dad, too. Save me a seat at dinner, okay?" She attached the chip to her flight suit, close to her heart. The next morning, the Silent Flame launched from Earth's orbital station. Una watched her home planet shrink behind her. Blue oceans, white clouds, green lands. 12 billion people lived down there. 12 billion people who would die if the Verith finished their secret weapon. She turned away and focused on the mission. The journey took 3 weeks. Una slept in short bursts, ate tasteless military rations, and spent hours studying enemy patrol patterns. The Verith were predictable. They believed they were superior, so they did not expect humans to be clever. This was their weakness. She slipped past the first patrol zone by hiding in the radiation shadow of a dead moon. She crossed the second by matching the speed of a Verith cargo convoy, flying so close to their ships that their sensors could not see her. The third zone was the hardest. She had to shut down all power and drift for 6 hours, completely dark and cold, while a Verith battleship passed within 10 kilometers of her position. But she made it. She reached the Kale system. What she saw made her blood freeze. The Varth were building something massive. A weapon the size of a small moon, covered in strange symbols that glowed with purple light. Her ship's sensors analyzed the energy readings. The results were clear. This weapon could crack a planet in half. One shot, and Earth would be destroyed. Recording everything, Una whispered to herself. Come on, get it all. Her transmission dish turned toward Earth, billions of kilometers away. The data would take hours to arrive, but it would arrive. Command would know. They could prepare. They could fight. She finished the upload and began her escape. That was when the alarm started. 12 Vareth interceptors appeared on her sensors. They had detected her transmission. They were fast, much faster than her damaged stealth ship. She had no weapons. She had almost no fuel. Una did not panic. She had expected this. She flew toward Kalefor, a frozen moon covered in ice and ancient Vareth tombs. It was a cemetery world, sacred to the enemy. Maybe they would hesitate to fire near it. They did not hesitate. The first shot hit her engine. The second destroyed her navigation system. The third cracked her hull open. The silent flame fell from the sky like a burning star. Una woke up in the wreckage. She was bleeding from her head. Her left arm was broken. The cold was already seeping into the destroyed cockpit. Outside, she could see the gray ice of Kalefor stretching to the horizon. Her radio crackled. It still worked, barely. She pressed the transmit button with shaking fingers. This is Captain Una Park of the United Terran Defense Force, she said. Data transmission complete. The weapon is real. It can destroy Earth. You have maybe 6 months. Do not waste them. She paused, coughing blood. Tell them I did not run. She released the button and leaned back against her broken seat. The cold was getting worse. She could hear Vareth ships landing nearby. They were coming for her. Una pulled out her data chip, the one with messages to Junho. She held it tight. She was not afraid. She had done her job. She had given humanity a chance. In her final moments, she began to sing. It was an old Korean song, one her mother used to sing to her when she was small. Her voice was weak and broken, but she sang anyway. The Vareth soldiers found her like that. Frozen still, a small smile on her face. Her hand clutched the data chip. Her eyes were closed. Captain Una Park died alone on a frozen moon, surrounded by enemies 12 billion kilometers from home. But her mission was complete, and her story was only beginning. Commander Torek had served the Vareth Dominion for 40 years. He had conquered worlds. He had burned cities. He had watched entire species surrender and beg for mercy. This was the way of the Dominion. The strong ruled. The weak served or died. Humans were supposed to be weak. They had no great empire. Their technology was primitive compared to Vareth science. Their bodies were soft, their lives short. When the Dominion first discovered Earth 20 years ago, the High Council had laughed. These creatures were barely worth conquering. But 20 years later, humans were still fighting. Torek did not understand it. No other species had resisted this long. The Dominion had destroyed their fleets, burned their colonies, killed billions of them. Any logical species would have surrendered. Any sane species would have accepted defeat. Humans kept fighting. Today, Tarek was leading a recovery team on Kale 4. A human pilot had crashed here after transmitting military secrets. Overseer Myran, his superior, wanted the body recovered for study. Perhaps we can learn something useful, Moran had said, his voice full of disgust. These vermin must have some weakness we have not yet found. Torek doubted they would find anything useful. A dead human was just meat and bone. But orders were orders. The crash site was a mess of twisted metal and frozen blood. The human ship had broken apart on impact. Torek's soldiers spread out, scanning for anything valuable. Torek found the body himself. She was small, even for a human. Her flight suit was torn and burned. Ice crystals covered her skin, making her look like a statue. Her eyes were closed, and there was a strange expression on her face. Not fear, not pain. Peace. Torek had seen many dead enemies. Most died screaming or crying. This human looked like she was sleeping. In her frozen hand, she held a small data chip. Torek took it. He should have given it to Overseer Myran immediately. That was protocol. But something made him hesitate. He put the chip in his pocket instead. That night, alone in his quarters, Torek examined the chip. It was not military intelligence. It was personal. Video messages, audio recordings, images. All meant for someone named Junho. Torek watched the first video. The human woman appeared on screen, younger than she looked in death. She was smiling, but her eyes were sad. "Hey, little brother," she said. "Another mission done. Another day survived. I wish you were here. I wish I could tell you about the stars I have seen. Remember when we used to watch the sky together? You always wanted to be a pilot. You got your wish, even if it was not the way we planned." She paused, wiping her eyes. "I miss you every day. But I keep going. For you. For Mom and Dad. For everyone we lost. I will not stop until the war is over. I promise." The video ended. Torek sat in silence for a long time. He did not understand. Who was this Junho? Why did she talk to him if he was dead? What was the purpose of these messages? He watched more videos. Hours of them. He listened to her sing strange songs in a language his translator could barely handle. He heard her laugh at small things. He heard her cry when she thought no one was watching. In the final recording, made just before her death, she spoke directly to any Virith who might find her body. "You think we are weak because we die," she said. "You think we are foolish because we fight when we cannot win. But you do not understand. We do not fight because we think we will live. We fight because some things are worth dying for." She leaned closer to the camera. "Our families, our homes, our freedom. These things matter more than survival. You have conquered 1,000 worlds, but you have never understood this. You think strength is about power, about crushing others. But real strength is about standing up when everything is lost, about singing in the dark, about loving someone so much that you keep talking to them even after they are gone." Her eyes were hard now, fierce. "You will kill many more of us, but you will never break us. And one day, when you finally understand what we are, you will wish you had left us alone." The recording ended. Torek sat in darkness, his mind spinning. He was a loyal soldier of the Dominion. He had never questioned his orders, never doubted his purpose. But this dead human woman had planted something in his mind. A question he could not ignore. What if the Dominion was wrong about humans? Over the following weeks, Torek began to research. He accessed human historical records captured during the war. He read about their past, their wars, their heroes. He learned about a place called Thermopylae, where 300 warriors fought against an army of millions. They all died, but they never retreated. He learned about Stalingrad, where humans fought in frozen ruins for months, eating rats and leather to survive. They did not surrender. He learned about something called the Siege of Singapore Station from this very war. 200 humans held a damaged space station against Varith forces for 30 days. They had no food, no water, no hope of rescue. They fought until the last one died. The station's final transmission was a single word: remember. Torek did not sleep well anymore. He kept seeing the human woman's face. That peaceful expression. That small smile. She had known she was going to die. and she had been okay with it. More than okay. She had been proud. Overseer Moran noticed the change in him. "You seem troubled, Commander," Moran said one day. "Is something wrong?" "No, Overseer," Torek lied. "Just tired." Moran studied him with cold eyes. "Do not let these humans infect your mind. They are animals. Clever animals, perhaps, but animals nonetheless. Soon we will launch the final assault on their homeworld. Operation Divine Cleansing will end this war forever." Torek nodded, but his heart felt heavy. Genocide. The complete destruction of an entire species. 12 billion lives erased in fire. He thought about the human woman singing alone in the cold. He thought about her messages to her dead brother. He thought about her final words, "You will never break us." Torek was starting to believe she was right, and he was starting to wonder which side he really belonged on. Lieutenant Jiwoo Kang had not slept properly in 3 months. Not since Yuna died. They had been friends for 15 years, ever since Flight Academy. Jiwoo was the careful one, always checking systems twice, always following procedures. Yuna was the wild one, the one who trusted her instincts and broke rules when necessary. Together, they had survived dozens of missions. But Jiwoo could not go on that last mission. A training accident had damaged her leg. She was grounded, stuck on Earth, while her best friend flew into enemy territory alone. She had listened to Yuna's final transmission. "Tell them I did not run." Those words haunted her every night. Now Jiwoo stood in a military hospital in Seoul, staring through a glass window at a frozen body. Yuna's body. A strike team had recovered it from Kale 4 2 days ago. The Varath had kept her preserved for study, frozen in some kind of alien liquid. "Is this possible?" Jiwoo asked, her voice shaking. "Can you really bring her back?" Dr. Suman Han stood beside her, studying a tablet full of medical data. She was small and thin, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had created the Lazarus program 5 years ago. So far, she had successfully revived 11 soldiers from clinical death. "Possible, yes," Dr. Han said carefully. "The cold preserved her neural pathways. Her brain is intact. But I must warn you, Lieutenant, the procedure is painful. Extremely painful. And there are no guarantees about what she will remember, or who she will be when she wakes up." Jiwoo looked at her friend's frozen face. Yuna looked peaceful, almost like she was just sleeping. "She would want us to try," Jiwoo said. "She never gave up on anyone." "We cannot give up on her." Dr. Han nodded slowly. "Then we begin tomorrow." The Lazarus Protocol was not magic. It was science pushed to its absolute limits. Dr. Han's team worked for 18 hours straight, slowly warming Yuna's body while repairing damaged tissue with nanomachines. They restarted her heart 6 times. They rebuilt portions of her lungs that had frozen and cracked. The hardest part was the brain. Human memories are stored in patterns of neural connections. When someone dies, those patterns begin to decay. But the extreme cold of Kale 4 had stopped the decay almost completely. Yuna's memories were still there, locked in frozen tissue. Unlocking them was agony. Jiwoo was in the observation room when Yuna woke up. The scream that came from her friend was unlike anything she had ever heard. It was not just physical pain. It was the pain of dying, compressed into a single moment. Every nerve, every memory, every feeling from her final moments on that frozen moon came rushing back at once. Yuna screamed for 3 hours before she finally fell unconscious. When she woke again, she did not know where she was. She did not recognize Jiwoo. She could not speak. She just stared at the ceiling, her eyes empty, her body shaking. "Give her time," Dr. Han said. "Her mind needs to rebuild itself." Days passed. Then weeks. Slowly, piece by piece, Yuna came back. The first word she spoke was Junho. Jiwoo held her hand and cried. Recovery was slow and hard. Yuna had to relearn how to walk. Her memories were fragmented, like a puzzle with missing pieces. Some things she remembered perfectly. Other things were gone forever. She remembered the mission. She remembered the crash. She remembered dying. It was cold, she told Jiwoo one night, her voice hoarse. So cold, but I was not scared. I thought I would see Junho again. I thought it was finally over. She looked down at her hands, flexing fingers that had been frozen solid. But I am still here. Why am I still here? Jiwoo did not have an answer. There was something else too. Strange visions that Yuna could not explain. She saw Vareth symbols in her dreams. She heard alien music. She saw a face, tall and angular, with dark eyes. A Vareth face. It felt important somehow, but she did not know why. Dr. Han explained that near-death experiences sometimes caused unusual neural activity. The visions were probably nothing. Probably just her brain trying to make sense of trauma. Yuna was not sure she believed that. 6 weeks after her revival, Admiral Do-hwan Lee came to visit her. He looked older than she remembered. The war was wearing him down. But his eyes still had that same fire, that same stubborn hope that had kept humanity fighting for 20 years. Captain Park, he said, sitting beside her bed. You look better than I expected for a dead woman. Yuna almost smiled. I feel like death, Admiral. Does that count? It counts. He was quiet for a moment. Your mission was successful. The data you transmitted allowed us to locate and destroy the Vareth weapon before it was finished. You saved 12 billion lives. Yuna let that sink in. 12 billion lives. More people than she could ever imagine. And she had saved them by dying on a frozen moon. So why does it feel so empty? She asked. Admiral Lee leaned forward. Because the war is not over. The Vareth are angry. They lost their super weapon, and now they want revenge. Intelligence reports say they are gathering the largest fleet in history. They are coming for Earth. Final assault. Total extermination. Yuna felt something cold settle in her chest. How long? 3 months. Maybe 4. Can we stop them? The Admiral was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I do not know. We are outnumbered 4-1. Our fleet is damaged. Our soldiers are exhausted. By every calculation, we should lose. He met her eyes. But we are human. We do not surrender. We do not give up. And we do not let our heroes rest when there is still fighting to be done. He stood up. Dead well, Captain Park. We need you. After he left, Yuna lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about Junho. She thought about her parents. She thought about all the people she had lost. She had already died once for humanity. She had earned her rest. But rest could wait. The war could not. Jiwoo came in later that evening. She found Yuna sitting up, testing her strength, pushing her body even though the doctors had told her to rest. What are you doing? Jiwoo demanded. Yuna looked at her with those fierce, dark eyes. The eyes of a woman who had seen death and come back. Getting ready, she said. We have a war to finish. Commander Torek stood on the bridge of the Vareth battleship and watched the fleet assemble. 3,000 warships, the largest force the Dominion had ever gathered. Enough firepower to burn 100 worlds, and all of it was heading toward Earth. Operation Divine Cleansing, the final solution to the human problem. In 3 months, there would be no more humans, no more resistance, no more singing pilots who died with smiles on their faces. Tarek should have been proud. This was what he had trained for his entire life. This was the Dominion's destiny. The strong conquered. The weak perished. This was the natural order, but all he could think about was that data chip. He still had it, hidden in his quarters. He still listened to the recordings sometimes, late at night when no one could see. The human woman's voice had become familiar to him, almost comforting. "Hey, little brother." He had learned her name from military records. Captain Una Park. The humans considered her a hero. They had named a medal after her dad, and now she was dead because of his people. Frozen and forgotten on a cemetery moon. Tarek walked through the massive ship, past rows of soldiers preparing for war. They were confident, eager. They believed victory was certain. Tarek was not so sure anymore. He had spent months studying humans. Not just their military tactics, but their culture, their art, their history. The more he learned, the more confused he became. These creatures made no sense. They wrote songs about loss. They created paintings of sadness. They told stories where the heroes died. What kind of species celebrated tragedy? But the more Tarek thought about it, the more he understood. Humans did not celebrate tragedy. They celebrated meaning. They believed that how you lived mattered more than how long you lived. They believed that love and sacrifice and courage were more important than survival. The Verith had no such beliefs. To the Dominion, survival was everything. Power was everything. Weakness was death. But looking around at his own people, Tarek saw something he had never noticed before. His fellow soldiers were not happy. They were not fulfilled. They conquered world after world, and still they wanted more. They had everything, and yet they had nothing. The humans had almost nothing, and yet they had everything that mattered. Tarek made his decision in a single moment. It was not dramatic. There was no great revelation. He simply looked at the fleet heading toward Earth and knew he could not be part of genocide. He could not help destroy a species that had taught him more about life than 40 years of Verith service. He waited for the right moment. A small window when security was focused elsewhere. Then he stole a shuttle and fled into the darkness between stars. His transmission went out on an open human frequency. "I am Commander Tarek of the Verith Dominion. I request sanctuary. I have information that will save your species." The response came hours later. Coordinates for a hidden station at the edge of Terran space. A single instruction: come alone. Any weapons will be destroyed. Tarek came alone. The station was small and old, hidden in the shadow of a gas giant. Human soldiers in heavy armor met him at the docking bay. Their weapons never wavered. "On your knees," one of them ordered. "Hands where we can see them." Tarek obeyed. He had expected this. Humans had every reason to hate his kind. They searched him, bound his hands, and led him deep into the station. The corridors were narrow, built for creatures smaller than him. He had to duck through doorways. Finally, they brought him to a room. Gray walls, harsh lights, a single table with 2 chairs. An interrogation chamber. "Wait here," the soldier said. "Someone will speak with you?" Tarek waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. He understood the tactic. They were testing his patience, his commitment. They wanted to see if he would break. He did not break. The door opened, and she walked in. Tarek felt his heart stop. It was her. The pilot. The woman from the recordings. Captain Una Park. But that was impossible. She was dead. He had seen her body. He had taken the data chip from her frozen hand. Una sat down across from him, her dark eyes studying his face. There was something different about her. Harder, colder, like someone who had walked through death and come back changed. "You," she said. "I know you." Tarek stared at her. "That is impossible. We have never met." "I see your face in my dreams," Una said slowly. "Ever since I woke up. I see Verith symbols. I hear music I do not understand. And I see you. She leaned forward. You were there. When I died. You found my body. Torek's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, I took your data chip. I watched your recordings. I heard you singing. Silence filled the room. Why? Yuna finally asked. Why did you listen? Torek thought about the question for a long moment. How could he explain? How could he make her understand? Because you were not afraid, he said. Every enemy I have ever faced died in fear, begging, screaming. But you were at peace. You died singing. I had never seen anything like it. He met her eyes. I needed to understand. What kind of creature faces death singing? What kind of species fights when they cannot win? I studied your people, your history, your culture. And I learned something that changed everything. What did you learn? Torek spoke slowly, choosing each word carefully. My people have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have ruled for 10,000 years. But we have never known peace. We have never known joy. We take, and we are never satisfied. We are empty. He gestured toward the walls, toward the humans beyond. Your people have almost nothing. You are dying. Your worlds are burning. But you still sing, you still love. You still hope. You have something we lost long ago, or perhaps never had. Yuna was quiet for a moment. So you defected because of a song? I defected because your song made me realize the truth. The Dominion is not strong. It is sick. We destroy because we cannot create. We conquer because we cannot connect. We are the weak ones. He reached into his memory, pulling up everything he knew about the invasion. The fleet heading toward Earth has 3,000 ships. They will arrive in 11 weeks. But there is a weakness. The flagship Divine Wrath controls the entire fleet through a central command network. Its shields have a gap during power cycling. 11 seconds every 6 hours. Hit it during that window, and the whole fleet loses coordination. Yuna studied him. Why should we believe you? You should not, Torek said simply. I am your enemy. I have killed your people. I have burned your worlds. But I am also the only chance you have. He placed his bound hands on the table. I do not ask for forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I only ask for a chance to make things right. Let me help you fight. Let me show my people that there is another way. Yuna stood up and walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle. I died alone on your sacred ground, she said without turning around. And now you have followed me home. She looked back at him, and for a moment, Tarek saw something that might have been understanding. Strange universe, she said, then she was gone. The day the Vareth came, Earth was ready. 800 human warships formed a defensive line near Mars. Behind them, every armed vessel humanity could gather waited in reserve. Cargo ships with weapons bolted to their hulls. Mining vessels loaded with explosives. Civilian transports carrying volunteers who had never fired a gun in their lives. It was not enough. Everyone knew it was not enough. But they were there anyway. Captain Unipark stood on the bridge of the carrier Indomitable, watching the tactical display. 3,000 red dots approached from the outer system. 3,000 Vareth warships, coming to end humanity forever. Admiral Dohan Lee's voice came through the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Lee. I will not lie to you. The odds are against us. We are outnumbered, outgunned. By every logical calculation, we should lose today. He paused. But logic has never stopped us before. We are human. We do not surrender. We do not give up. And we do not go quietly into the dark. His voice grew stronger. Today, we fight for our children, for our parents, for everyone who ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of tomorrow. Today, we show the universe what humanity is made of. All ships, attack. The battle began. Una led Phoenix Wing, an elite squadron of 12 fighters through the chaos. Their mission was simple, but almost impossible. Reach the Vareth flagship Divine Wrath and exploit the shield weakness that Torek had revealed. 11 seconds. That was all they would have. Around her, the space was filled with fire and death. Human ships exploded in bright flashes. Vareth interceptors swarmed like angry insects. The screams of dying pilots filled the radio channels. Phoenix 3 is hit. I am going down. Phoenix 7 eject. Eject. They are everywhere. We cannot. One by one, her squadron fell. Una flew like a woman possessed, dodging fire that should have killed her, weaving through explosions that should have torn her apart. But it was not enough. It was never enough. By the time she reached the Divine Wrath, she was alone. Her fighter was damaged. Half her weapons were gone. Warning lights covered her console. She was one small ship against the largest warship in the Vareth fleet. Phoenix lead to command, she said, her voice calm. I am in position, waiting for shield cycle. Admiral Lee's voice came back, heavy with emotion. Understood, Phoenix lead. We are watching. The whole world is watching. 4 minutes to shield cycle. Una waited. She thought about Junho. She thought about her parents. She thought about Jiwoo, waiting somewhere behind the battle lines, praying for her return. She thought about Torek, locked in a cell on Earth. He had given them this chance. An enemy who became an ally. A soldier who found his conscience. Strange universe indeed. The shield cycle began. Una pushed her damaged fighter forward. The Divine Wrath loomed ahead, massive and terrible. Its guns turned toward her, tracking her approach. She had 11 seconds. 10 seconds. She dodged the first volley. Barely. 8 seconds. A glancing hit knocked out her targeting computer. She would have to aim manually. 6 seconds. More fire. Her left wing disintegrated. 4 seconds. She was too far. She would not make it in time. And then, from nowhere, another ship appeared. It was a Vareth shuttle, battered and scarred. It flew directly into the path of the Divine Wrath's guns, drawing fire away from Una. Tarek's voice filled her radio. Captain Park, I have the override codes. I can drop their shields completely. Torek, how did you? No time. Take the shot. The shuttle broadcast something in Vareth language. The Divine Wrath shields flickered once, twice, then died completely. Una fired everything she had left. Her missiles struck the flagship's core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Divine Wrath began to break apart. Explosions rippled across its hull. The massive ship cracked like an egg, spilling fire and debris into space. Across the battlefield, the Vareth fleet fell into chaos. Without their command ship, their coordination collapsed. Ships crashed into each other. Attack formations broke apart. The human fleet surged forward. What happened next was not a battle. It was a rout. Vareth ships fled in all directions, pursued by human vessels that refused to let them escape. The invincible Dominion Armada, the greatest fleet in galactic history, was destroyed in 3 hours. Una's fighter drifted among the wreckage, her engines dead, her systems failing. She watched the victory through cracked glass, too tired to celebrate. Phoenix lead, this is rescue shuttle. We have your position. Hold on, Jiwoo's voice. Jiwoo had come for her. I am not going anywhere, Una said, almost laughing. Trust me. The shuttle appeared minutes later. Hands pulled her from the cockpit. Medical teams surrounded her. Voices asked if she was okay, if she was hurt, if she needed anything. Una just wanted to sleep. But first, she had one question. Torek, she said. The Varath who helped me. Did he survive? Silence. Then Jiwoo's voice, soft and wondering. He did. His shovel was damaged, but we recovered him. He's asking about you. Una closed her eyes and smiled. The war did not end that day. It took another year of fighting, of negotiations, of slow and painful peace talks. But the Battle of Soul Threshold broke the Dominion's will. They had been defeated by vermin, by insects, by a species they thought was beneath them. They never recovered from that shame. Torek became the first Varath ambassador to Earth. He worked for decades to build understanding between the two species. He was hated by many, trusted by few, and respected by those who knew what he had sacrificed. Una retired from combat duty. She had given enough, died enough. On a quiet day in rebuilt Seoul, she visited a memorial garden. Stone tablets listed the names of everyone who had died in the war. Millions of names. She found Junho's near the center. She sat beside it for a long time, not speaking. Then she pulled out a small data chip and placed it at the base of the stone. I made some new recordings, she said softly. Thought you might like to hear them. About the people I met. The things I saw. The alien who watched me die and decided to change his whole life. She wiped her eyes. We won, little brother. We actually won. And I am finally at peace. She stood up and looked at the sky. Somewhere up there, ships were flying. Human ships, Varath ships, flying together now instead of fighting. A new universe being born. She had died alone in enemy lands. She had returned with the foe following her. And together, they had changed everything. Strange universe, she whispered. Then she walked home, singing an old Korean song under her breath. The same song she had sung when she died. The same song that had brought an enemy to his knees. The same song that had saved humanity.